So in the original Resident Evil 4, QuickTime events played a major role in the game's mechanics as you utilized them in almost every situation, from fighting standard enemies and dodging their attacks, to using them in boss fights, to even having them appear in cinematic cutscenes. And so, will the Resident Evil 4 remake use QTEs in the same manner, or will they cut them out completely? I can see Capcom going either way with this, where they do keep the QTEs as that was such a big part of the original Resident Evil 4, but I can also see them cutting them out completely and giving it a bit more of a modern take. So it will be interesting to see which direction Capcom does take the whole thing, but personally I would be just fine if the vast majority of the QTEs got cut out, as I don't think that they really add too much to the game, and a lot of them are really unnecessary. And a few of them that come to mind that they could easily remove and replace with something else are things like the boulders in Resident Evil 4's village segment, where Leon is running away from the boulders coming down the hill. You could have that where just aim the analog stick down naturally has Leon run faster during that moment. So that would take care of those QuickTime events. And then the Salazar statue, I actually could see this whole segment being cut from the remake, as it seems to be taking a much more serious tone direction compared to the original. So maybe the statue's still there, but it doesn't necessarily chase you at the end. So that would completely get rid of those QuickTime events that happen during that moment. And then another QuickTime event that I think they could remove is the most famous one, and that's the knife fight with Krauser. I would be perfectly fine if they took out the QuickTime events and just made it a straightforward cinematic cutscene that we watch from beginning to end with no interruption. And I would actually prefer that, because the QuickTime events didn't really add that much to it, especially considering that there are checkpoints. So even if you did get killed, you literally start right there. So it wasn't like there was like any heavy weight of, oh boy, if I get killed here, I'm going to get transported back to wherever I last saved, because checkpoints were a thing in Resident Evil 4, so it didn't really add anything. There was no real tension during that moment because of them. They were just sort of annoying and kind of chopped up the cutscene a bit. So I'd be perfectly fine if they removed them and just let you enjoy the knife fight. Now, a few QuickTime events that I do think would be perfectly fine to still be there are things like when you fight Del Lago, the fish monster. It'd be perfectly fine to still have QuickTime events for when you get knocked off the boat and have to swim back over there. That'd be okay. Another one would be the laser room hallway on the island where you're dodging the lasers and stuff like that. I'd be okay with a few QuickTime events there, but for the most part I do think they should be removed. Now if they do remove the QTEs, what should they replace them with? Because that's important. If you remove something, you need to replace it with something. And I think the two things that they could replace it with are the Resident Evil 3 dodge mechanic. I would love to see this get implemented into Resident Evil 4, especially when you consider Leon is a much more experienced individual compared to that version of Jill. So whenever you land a perfect dodge, he can do something even cooler, where maybe he does like a cool knife melee attack or something like that. So it'd be really interesting to see how they could implement the dodge mechanic from 3 into 4, and I would love to see it. And then the other thing is the counter ability that you could do in Resident Evil 6. This was a really cool move where you could counter an enemy's melee attack that they were about to perform on you and pretty much dodge it and then attack them with your own melee attack. You can even grab their weapons occasionally and use it against them. So that was a really cool feature in Resident Evil 6, and I would love to see that make a return for Resident Evil 4 Remake. I mean, imagine countering a villager and taking their pitchfork and using it against them. That'd just be really cool. But those are two things that I would love to see replace QTEs should they decide to remove them. But what are your thoughts on the whole situation? Do you want to see QuickTime events get removed completely? Would you like to see them stay? If they do get removed, what would you want to see replace them? And let me know in the comments. I'm going to end this video here, and I will see you all on the next one. See you then.